So back in March 2017, when the entire media was focused on the Galaxy S8, is actually when Samsung started production of its Galaxy S9. And in that sense, that made them about 6 months ahead of schedule compared to where they were with the S8. What this means is that, first of all, the S9 is going to be perhaps a slightly larger leap forward and a more consistent and refined device, but also it's probably going to release earlier. So the latest rumours are suggesting that the Galaxy S9 could very well be in stores by either late February or early March. Not only that, but given the phone is a good 5-6 months away, we actually know a surprisingly large amount about it. So stay tuned till the end of this video to find out everything you need to know about the Galaxy S9. And also, as a bit of a side note, we are on the long road to 1 million subscribers, so if you could support me by subscribing, that would mean so much to me. Let's get right into it. The Samsung Galaxy S line of smartphones is the company's flagship range, which means that whether or not they are the most powerful or capable devices, they are the ones which have the largest marketing budget and overall are going to have the largest impact in the market, as was the case with the S8, the S7, and pretty much every S phone before it. What that essentially means is that all eyes are going to be on the Galaxy S9, and it has to seriously outdo the Galaxy S8, considering how far the smartphone market is moving forward. And as you're about to see, Samsung is doing just that. So there's been a very recent report that Samsung has essentially bought the entire batch of Qualcomm's Snapdragon 845 processors. Now, for those of you who are unaware, the flagship processor in 2017 is the Snapdragon 835, and currently the codename of the next generation, as it kind of makes sense, is the Snapdragon 845. Now, what happened in early 2017 is for the Galaxy S8, Samsung did the exact same thing. They pretty much bought the entire batch of the Snapdragon 835s, and that left their competitors like LG stuck with the Snapdragon 821. They've done it again. The Snapdragon 845, whilst hasn't officially been confirmed by Qualcomm, has actually appeared on Geekbench in a device codenamed the SMG965. And that in itself is quite a big tip, because this is exactly how Samsung conventionally names their devices. The Galaxy S8, for example, was called the SMG950. The S8 Plus was the SMG955, and therefore the SMG965 basically is the Galaxy S9 Plus. Now, this same benchmark also points towards both phones having 4 gigs of RAM and identical screen sizes and resolutions to the S8 and S8 Plus. And on one hand, that's going to annoy some people. Some people are going to be a little bit disappointed. Why doesn't it have a 4K display? Why doesn't it have 6 or 8 gigabytes of RAM? We've even seen these specifications on phones in 2017. But on the other hand, maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe Samsung has decided that 4 gigs of RAM is more than enough for everyone except the highest of power users. And for them, you've got the Note 9. In terms of screen resolution, personally, I think Samsung is making a pretty good call, sticking to the current standard. Just because 4K, as we've seen on phones like the XZ Premium, didn't really go down too well. There was a significant effect on the battery life, on the performance, and on the price tag, and in the end, can anyone tell the difference? Very few people can. However, even though on paper these screen specifications are basically the same as the last generation, that doesn't mean they're going to look the same, because Samsung is apparently working on a new display technology. It's still based off the classic AMOLED panels they've been using for many years now, but it's codenamed Sunflower. Now, we don't know too much about it right now, but more than likely it's going to either be an increase in brightness for better HDR content and outdoor viewing, or it could be a different way and a better way to display colours. Also, even though these screen sizes seem unlikely to change, that doesn't mean the designs are going to stay the same at all. Because if we look at Samsung's past history of smartphones, ever since the first Galaxy S flagship, Samsung has iterated its design every single time. It seems very unlikely this time around they'll stick with the same thing. It's very possible in the same way that Samsung significantly shrunk the bezels between the Galaxy S7 and the Galaxy S8, that they could do it again. Now, clearly there's a little bit less room for maneuver this time. You've still got to fit the camera, proximity sensor, and a few other little bits and pieces on the front of the phone, so it won't be able to go edge to edge necessarily, but they could definitely shrink it a little bit. One of the ways in which the Galaxy S9 could really be a quantum leap forward from the S8 is if Samsung manages to cram an in-screen fingerprint scanner. This has been talked about a lot. Qualcomm talked about it a lot because their chips now support it, but we've just not yet seen it in a post-production model. But Samsung, if they do release their phones as early as the rumours are suggesting, if they have indeed bought out the entire stock of Snapdragon 845 chipsets, could very well be the first company to bring a phone with this tech. And that would be fantastic because, first of all, the Galaxy S8 was a fantastic phone, but one of its main drawbacks was the ridiculously awkward position of the fingerprint scanner. Fixing this, and all of a sudden, you've got what you could call a near-perfect device. Also because the way most people hold their phones, their thumb naturally rests above the screen. So if the screen can become an interface to detect fingerprints, you can pretty much ditch the iris scanner and the face detection features entirely. One more thing we can take from this particular Geekbench report is the LTE modem. So as well as all these other specifications, the Galaxy S9 should be packing Cat18 LTE capability, which means download speeds of 1.2 GB per second, which is up from 1 GB per second as seen in the S8. Now, whenever we consider reports like this, it is worth bearing in mind that that's really all they are. They're just reports, they're just rumours, they're just leaks. They may not end up being true. But the ones we've seen so far do make a lot of sense, and they're fairly consistent with each other, which is normally a good way of checking if they're legitimate. For example, alongside these other Geekbench scores, we've had a completely independent source confirm that the Snapdragon 845 is not only a real thing and is coming next year, but also its single and multi-score Geekbench 4 scores. So this reporter, who has previously correctly tipped things in the past, has said that the Snapdragon 845 is actually going to get between 2600 and 2700 as a single core score. Compare that to the 835, which gets about 2000 on average. It's a pretty big leap forward. And again, it's exactly what we expected, because whilst the Snapdragon 835 is built on a 10nm process using the LTE manufacturing process, the Snapdragon 845 is also on a 10nm process using an LPP. And essentially what this is meant to do is give a performance increase of about 30 to 40%, which lines up more or less exactly with what we've seen from the Geekbench scores. Aside from all this, one of the big things people are expecting in the Galaxy S9 is a dual camera setup. People were quite surprised it wasn't featured on the S8 because it was in the Huawei P10, it was in the LG G6, and quite a few other phones before it. Having said that, I think it's long overdue in 2018, and Samsung really needs to catch on to that. Having said that, taking a look at the Google Pixel 2, this company has managed to do what most companies do with 2 smartphone cameras with only 1. And if Samsung can reciprocate this algorithm, that makes a lot of sense because they can save the cost of buying 2 lenses and really focus on getting one really good one in there. It also means that the same capability can be added to the front camera, which does make a world of difference. So far, that's pretty much everything we know about the Galaxy S9. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, it would mean so much to me if you could subscribe to the channel. With that being said, I'm Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'm signing out.